5:35 a.m. Friday, January 8th, Bay Club parking lot. The world according to Top Gun, free will and determinism. So I was never much interested in metaphysics when I was studying philosophy. I was always interested mainly in ethics. Philosophy was a sort of form of self-help for me. How should I live? How do I live a good life? That was the question that I was interested in. However, the question only makes sense in the context of free will. So the metaphysical question of determinism and free will becomes an important foundational consideration before we can even reasonably ask, how should I live? Because if determinism is true, and determinism is the belief that everything is determined by the current state of the material physical reality, and everything that was set in motion at the beginning, it's just playing out now like clockwork, and everything is determined. The past, the present, and the future are all determined. We're basically, especially since Darwin, so there was Newton, and then Darwin showed that we evolved from the apes, and so people started to think, wow, this applies to human beings as well. We're just automatons, just like we had thought the animals were. Whereas prior to Darwin, we had carved out a space for the soul, and could say that human beings were different. So if you accept philosophical determinism, materialism, which corresponds with materialism, you give up on the ideas of right and wrong, the ideas of striving, of willing, of meaning. None of those things make sense if everything is determined. So the stakes are very high. Now, fortunately, there are, and this is the prevailing view among most thinkers in our society today. Now, there are a number of serious flaws in the argument for determinism and materialism. The first one is the existence of consciousness. Why do we have the experience of feeling like something? Why isn't the brain just a material machine that just is that just runs and just determines what we do? Why do we have consciousness, conscious experience? The determinists and the materialists argue that's an epiphenomena. It correlates with the brain, but it has no causal efficacy. Well, that doesn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective. It's a waste of energy. Why create consciousness if it serves no purpose? So that's an argument against determinism. And a second very, very powerful argument against determinism is the reality of our internal experience, the feeling of volition, that I have a choice in each moment to some extent over what I do, over how I manage my feelings, over do I say this or do I say that, over my goals and my aspirations in my life, some level of volition. So if you're going to deny that, you're going to deny our basic feeling in our minds. And so how can you trust your mind? It's almost like Descartes' evil demon is deceiving us into believing that we have free will when we really don't. So how can we trust our mind? And finally, determinism can be shown to be false by an argument known as reductio ad absurdum. If determinism is true, everything that we think is determined. Truth, getting at truth, requires us to be able to make choices about what makes sense and what doesn't, how the evidence lines up and how to weigh it and stuff like that. Well, we're not weighing anything. We're just being determined in our beliefs. So the belief in determinism actually makes determinism impossible to be true. It's a reductio ad absurdum. So free will is real. It's real. And our philosophy and our metaphysics and our science has not accounted for this reality yet, because our conception of matter is still Newtonian, and that's false. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Shakespeare, Hamlet.